Hello, and welcome to the League of Women Voters of Portland Voter Forum for the candidates for Commissioner of the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industry, sometimes called BOLI. I'm Debbie Kay, President of the League. The League is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to making democracy work. We believe democracy works best when voters are informed about issues and engaged in their communities. We're presenting this forum to give Portland and all other Oregon voters the opportunity to learn more about these two candidates, Christina Stevenson and Sherry Helt. We are grateful for support from the Carol and Velma Sailing Foundation, the Weiss Foundation, the League of Women Voters of Portland Education Fund, and our media partner, Metro East Community Media. Our moderator for this forum is my esteemed colleague, Robin Tokmakian. Robin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Debbie. Hello, my name is Robin Tokmakian. I will be the moderator for this forum. Under the voter forum rules agreed to by the candidates for this event, each of the candidates will give a 2-minute opening statement, followed by questions we have prepared, and each will have a 2-minute closing. Each candidate will have up to 90 seconds to answer each question. The candidates have previously agreed to comply with these time rules. To determine the order in which the candidates will present their opening and closing statements and answer questions, we use the Secretary of State's current and previous candidate random alphabets and the reversal of some of those alphabets. Ms. Stevenson will give the first opening statement. Ms. Stevenson, please proceed.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Christina Stevenson, and I'm running for Labor Commissioner. I was born and raised here in Oregon. I'm a mom, I'm a small business owner, and I'm a civil rights attorney. I'm running for Labor Commissioner because I actually just fundamentally believe that Oregon should be the best place to live, work, and own a business in this country. I've worked with BOLI for over a decade on behalf of employers and employees, so I have the expertise and the track record that's going to help me get things done at BOLI. My day job as a civil rights attorney, I represent workers who are getting a raw deal when their employers aren't following the rules enshrined by the Bureau of Labor and Industries. Rules like paying employees all their wages, rules like not discriminating against people based on their race or their sexual orientation, rules like not retaliating against employees when they raise health and safety concerns. Over the years, I've also helped small businesses comply with these same rules, the rules enforced by BOLI. I grew up watching my parents grow and sustain a small business in this community for nearly 30 years. And I have a business myself. When I started at the kitchen table, my son was just 3 months old. I know what it's like to run payroll every month and to comply with all the same rules as every other business owner. I know that most business owners in Oregon are working hard to do right by their communities and their employees. At BOLI, we have the opportunity to make it easier for them, hold bad actors accountable so we're leveling the playing field. Our good businesses should not have to compete with folks that don't play by the rules. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to help hundreds of everyday Oregonians navigate the system just to make it work how it's supposed to. And one way the system should work is if you're willing to work hard, you can get ahead. But right now, working families and small businesses are struggling with rising costs. And this is why I have a plan to expand job training, helping businesses grow and create new jobs so more Oregonians can find a good paying job, earn a raise, keep up with inflation. As Labor Commissioner, I'm going to make sure we're investing in apprenticeship programs, staffing our schools and construction sites, enforcing the law, and empowering our employers to do the right thing.
Thank you. Ms. Helt, please proceed with your opening statement.
Thank you so much, Robin and Debbie and Chris, for having me today at the League of Women Voters. It's I started doing League of Women Voters about 12 years ago when the first time I ran for the school board, and it's always been a highlight of my campaigns. So thank you so much for having me today. My name is Sherry Helt, and I am running for the Bureau of Labor and Industry Commissioner because I'm a small business owner, and I believe small businesses need a voice and our employees need a voice. I believe that we can do a better job to fix this failing agency that has not been upholding its civil rights claims in a timely manner and has not been preparing our workforce for the future with the appropriate amount of apprenticeships. I come to this office with a lot of experience. I am a business owner for 18 years. I've owned a restaurant with my husband for 18 years, and we have employed hundreds of people. And at the height of our employment right before the pandemic, we employed and worked alongside of 104 coworkers. It's very important that the next commissioner have the experience of knowing how to manage a staff. And I have that experience. I also have nonpartisan experience for over 10 years of serving on a school board. It is so important that we have someone that can be fair and balanced and bring accountability. On my school board experience, I did that. I did that by raising teacher salaries as well as raising graduation rates. Our children are struggling. We know that the pandemic hit them very hard, and the test scores are the lowest they've been ever. And we need to make sure that we are lifting these children up and making sure that we invest in youth apprenticeship programs and preparing our workforce for the next 50 years. And I have a vision that I hope to explain to you over the next hour. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our questions now, so you have 90 seconds to answer these questions. Ms. Helt, what more could be done by the Bureau of Labor and Industries to eliminate discrimination in access to employment, housing, public spaces, and job opportunities in Oregon?
Well, right now, the Bureau of Labor and Industries is failing at this because we have a backlog of cases that have been unassigned. And we need to make sure that we are investigating these cases in a timely manner and really making sure that the people that are coming forward and asking for help receive that help. And I want to make sure we do that by holding our agency accountable and putting out a vision and a strategic plan. First, I want to start out with an audit to see what's working and what's not working. And then I want to implement a strategic plan alongside of all of the people who do this job every day and have been doing it for many years. They know exactly what needs to be done and what needs to be fixed to make sure that we're upholding these civil rights claims. And I know that they want to do that, and I want to do that as well. And so I will immediately on day one go in and start working on getting them the tools that they need and setting out an agency that can do the work that it is supposed to do and make sure all of our Oregonians that are facing discrimination are getting the justice that they need in a timely manner. Thank you.
And Ms. Stevenson, your response or your answer to the question.
Can you repeat the question?
What could be done by the Bureau of Labor and Industries to eliminate discrimination in access to employment, housing, public spaces, and job opportunities in Oregon?
I think the first place that we start is as far upstream as we can go, which is making sure that our employers, folks who are providing housing, folks that are in public spaces, that they all know that what the laws are. So, for example, there's 500,000 businesses in Oregon, and there are 6 people in the technical assistance division that helps employers comply with those rules. So I think that there is certainly room for there to be more folks that are helping compliance and training in both the workplace, housing, and public spaces. And once we have, increased that presence, I also want us to make sure that we are providing technical assistance in the languages that our businesses need. I know there's a large need for technical assistance in Spanish language and Russian. So I want us to make sure that we're meeting the community where they are to get them the tools they need to comply with the rules. And if complaints still come after that, then, our job is to make sure that we get them through as soon as possible, especially in the wage and hour realm where someone not getting paid could mean the difference between them making rent or being able to afford groceries.
So the next question will reverse the order. So Ms. Stevenson, what changes, if any, would you support to Oregon's current requirements concerning the payment of overtime wages of hourly employees? Please explain your answer.
The Labor Commissioner's job is to enforce the laws that are passed through the democratically elected legislature. So the legislature is the policy-making body, BOLI is the enforcement body. So if the legislature determines that those rules need to be changed, then BOLI would enforce those.
Thank you. Ms. Hill.
Can you repeat the question, please?
What changes, if any, would you support to Oregon's current requirements concerning the payment of overtime wages of hourly employees? Please explain your answer.
So with the Bureau of Labor and Industry, the Bureau of Labor and Industry sets the rules to the laws that are passed. I would work with the rules that the legislature brings and enforce them to fruition. I think it's really important that we are upholding a high standard. But the most important thing that we can do to uphold standards is make sure that we have an agency that is functioning on a timely basis and make sure that we are getting results and not making excuses for things where we fall short. We need to make sure that we have strategic plans and we tackle problems. I have a history of tackling problems. When I was on the school board, we had overcrowding issues. And so with that, I worked with the administration, the teachers, the staff at schools, our community, and my fellow board members. And we passed 4 different bonds to build 4 different schools. So we fixed the overcrowding problem. I think that it is very important that when we talk about enforcement that we are able to make sure that we are able to enforce these issues, because if we have a failing agency and we make excuses for the agency instead of getting the results that we need, we are not going to get the results that Oregonians deserve. And every Oregonian should be paid on time and paid correctly. Thank you.
With a pandemic-created surge in remote work, how should BOLI ensure that traditional employee workplace protections are being observed when employees work remotely?
Okay, so I think that the most important thing is that through the pandemic, we created a lot of opportunities to be able to have people employed. When the pandemic came and there were shutdowns, and we had to really overcome a lot of obstacles and make sure that people could be paid. We saw the unemployment department be a complete and total failure and not be able to get out wages to people across our state for over 16 weeks. Some people, it took over a year to get the wages that they had paid into and were deserved. And so remote work was really a way for employees to have opportunities to continue to be paid and to continue the work that they were doing. And so I think it's really important that when we are looking at this, we make sure that workers are protected, but we also don't want to over-regulate in this area to areas where businesses cannot have any control over certain things, such as, if someone trips in their home and it becomes a case that a business owner is responsible with workman's comp. I think we have to be very cautious of this, because what I would want to do as labor commissioner is make sure we have opportunities and that people are able to continue to be flexible to do what works for their schedule and allow the opportunities that Oregon workers need and deserve to be able to flourish and survive through challenging times. Thank you.
Ms. Stevenson, your answer, please.
So nearly 1 in 10 workers in Oregon right now are remote workers. So I think it is incumbent upon the Bureau of Labor and Industries to provide both workers and employers information about their rights and responsibilities. You know, you should be able to go on the website right now and see, as a remote worker or a remote employer, what your responsibilities are. You know, for example, if you're an employer, you need to know in what state your employee is working to know which laws apply to you. You need to know about what their work environment is and understand when you need workers' comp insurance for and to what extent. So I think our job at BOLI is to make sure that employers understand, you know, just make it as simple as possible, you know, checklist, flow chart. These are the things you should consider if you've got a remote employee, and remote workers should know, you know, you're working in Oregon, all the laws apply to you as well. But there's some complicated questions around how to count employees, and a number of our laws require employee counts in order to know whether or not that law applies. So, you know, is it one employee? Is it 6 or more, 15, 25, 50? So employees understanding how those counts are affected by their remote status, if they're working in Oregon or outside of Oregon for an Oregon company, understanding their rights so that.
Just finish up your sentence, please. Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep.
This is the next question for Ms. Stevenson. What are your thoughts about worker classifications as employees or independent contractors?
You know, this is an area where, again, I would love a worker or a self-employed person who is an independent contractor to be able to go onto BOLI's website and just understand their own rights or responsibilities. In Oregon, we have several different tests for whether or not someone is an independent contractor or an employee. You know, the Civil Rights Division at BOLI has one test, the Wage and Hour Division has another test, the Unemployment Department has another test. I believe Workers' Comp has another test. So I think what everybody wants is as much clarity as possible. And I think that is BOLI's job, is for both sides to understand any, you know, am I a self-employed person? What are my responsibilities? Am I an independent contractor or an employee? What are my rights? What are my responsibilities? It's BOLI's job to help make that clear.
Thank you. Ms. Helt.
Robin, can you repeat the question for me?
What are your thoughts about worker classifications as employees or independent contractors?
Yeah, I think that it's so important. You know, as we watched workers just be clobbered by the pandemic and instability just run rampant through people's wages because of closures and the pandemic and all these different factors, supply chains, labor shortages, it's been a really difficult road. I think that independent contractors and gig workers, we need to allow them to be flexible. We need flexibility inside of our environment to make sure that our economy works. We are seeing interest rates rise, gas rates rise. We are seeing people have less money to bring home to their kitchen table as food costs rise. And we need to make sure that people are allowed to work and do the jobs that they feel are important to them and make their schedules work for them. So I think it's very important that we support the bubbling up of the economy through independent contractors and make sure that people are allowed to work and flourish in the way that they see works for themselves and their families. And I think that's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. So this question goes first to Ms. Helt. How would you use your position to encourage labor management cooperation?
Can you define labor management cooperation? I'm not sure what you're getting at.
I'm not sure I can. I would think it's
fine.
between the workers and the management of the company.
Okay.
Or a union, maybe a union too.
So I thank you. Thank you for clarifying, Robin. Sorry to put you in an awkward spot. So I have many years of doing just this. So I'm not asking you to trust me or to, believe in something I'm telling you. I have been elected over 12 years. I've served in the state legislature. I've served on my school board for 10 years, and I've been elected many times. I have a record of doing just this. And what I would ask is that you look at my record. So I have managed, as a school board chair, many different negotiations between different unions, the teachers union, our classified union, and our administrative unions. And I have always had successful negotiations with those unions. And I've always worked hard to make sure that things were met. So we increased benefit wages while I was on the chair of the school board. We increased wages for teachers, classified staff, and we worked very hard to make sure that other needs were met too, right? Lowering classroom sizes. But we also, on the other side of the coin, wanted to make sure that we were meeting the needs of our students. And so our students, it was very important that we raise graduation rates. And so we raised graduation rates and we raised benefits and salaries at the same time. And I think that this question has to be an and, not an or. And this is where I excel. And what I would ask you to do is look at my record, because I have a long record of doing this. And I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to look at my record. Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Stevenson, your answer to the question.
So encouraging labor management cooperation is exactly why this position was formed in 1903. And I'm proud that I have the support of many businesses. I have support of business and labor. And I think, what I would like us to do in Oregon is just to stop thinking about things in terms of us versus them. I want us to stop thinking in terms of a zero-sum game. The reality is that workers need businesses, businesses need workers. It is a symbiotic relationship. And I mean, not only the individual business that hires workers, but for the businesses that are patronized as a result of the worker's paycheck. I want all of us, I think what we all want is an Oregon where people just have access to the American dream, an Oregon where you hold your own destiny in your hands. And as long as you work hard, you can get ahead. Whether it means rising up to the highest rank in a company or hanging your own shingle, starting a business. And we don't get there by demonizing each other or treating each other as monoliths. I want BOLI to be a place where we're invested in the success of everyone who interacts with the agency.
Thank you. You are listening to the League of Women Voters of Portland's voter forum for the candidates for commissioner of the Bureau of Labor and Industries. So this next question goes first to Ms. Stevenson. How will your office address the issue of worker shortages in Oregon?
The issues of worker shortage, we are going to be laser focused on this issue because we know, small businesses, working families are struggling with rising costs, and the worker shortage in so many industries is a worker crisis. Industries like healthcare, education, high-tech manufacturing. So we are going to be working on making sure that our apprenticeships are actually accessible, that, making sure that the administrative rules that regulate those apprenticeships are flexible enough to expand them into the industries where it's needed. And we have to make sure that we're starting early on with dedicated K-12 partnerships so that we're getting our kids into the pre-apprenticeship programs that BOLI has just started to work on. So pre-apprenticeship programs where our kids are going to have the skills they need to go seamlessly into apprenticeship programs rather than graduating from high school and needing additional schooling before they can get into apprenticeship programs. I mean, apprenticeship programs are a beautiful tool to diversify the workforce and get folks into family wage jobs, not only in our building trades, but in things like healthcare, education, and more.
Thank you. Ms. Helt, your response.
Can you repeat the question for me, Robin?
How will your office address the issue of worker shortages in Oregon?
So I've been working on this for many years. It started back when I was on the school board. We worked really hard to pass Measure 98, which is dedicated funding for career and technical education. We were able to pass that, and there has been dedicated career and technical education funding in Oregon for about the last 6-7 years. The problem is we have never completed that bridge from career and technical education in high school into high wage paying careers. And part of the problem is that BOLI has not updated its apprenticeship programs and has too much red tape. And so we need to cut the red tape and build a bridge into K-12 to high wage paying jobs. I will give you an example of the chip making industry. We need to build a labor force there. There's $280 billion right now being invested in chip making across our country from our federal government. We were the leading chip makers in the United States as Oregon workers, and we have now fallen short. And so we should have done this years ago, but didn't. And we now need to make sure we're building apprenticeship programs and capturing those jobs. Those jobs pay $135,000 a year. And Intel is going to be having 10,000 of those that are going to Ohio because we don't have the workforce. It is so tremendously important. And this is part of the vision and plan that I have. This is part of the reason that I'm running. And this is my skill set. I have done this before, and I'm looking forward to putting a plan together to make sure that our children have great opportunities and are able to flourish in Oregon for the next 50 years.
Thank you. Our next question goes to Ms. Held. First, what can the Bureau of Labor and Industries do to increase and improve job training programs to provide well-qualified workers to industry?
Well, so that's the thing that gets me so excited about this position. So thank you for that question. It is so important that we create opportunities, and we have a whole division inside of the Bureau of Labor and Industry with the apprenticeship program and on-the-job training that we have underutilized for many years. And that's why we have such a workforce shortage and a training shortage in Oregon. And we've had to pass a bill last session that they passed to put money into building out the workforce. And so we now have millions of dollars that we can utilize and put forward into just this mission. And so I think it's very important that we have a strategic plan to make sure that we meet our needs for the next 50 years. When you're building schools and making plans for curriculum, you need to be doing it out into 50 years, 100 years. And so I think that it's important that we have an agency head that is not looking at the small little red tape that's being created, but rather looking at a big vision to implement for the whole state for our future. And that is really what I want to bring to the table, and work hard with industry and alongside of industry, and have businesses and employees at the table where we're conversing together and moving mountains, because that's what we need to do in Oregon, is move some mountains, make access across the state, make access for younger folks, make access for people who want to move into a new career. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stevenson.
So in terms of increasing job training in Oregon, the legislature passed the Future Ready Oregon package, which allocated $20 million to BOLI, about $18 million of that for grants and pre-apprenticeship programs in healthcare, manufacturing, and construction, and apprenticeship programs in healthcare and manufacturing. So those grants are already starting to be allocated to priority populations, including people of color, tribal members, rural Oregonians, and that allocation will continue under the next labor commissioner until about June of 2023. So I think it will be really important that we are a good steward of taxpayer dollars, that we are leveraging that money to make sure that it not only is accessible to as many communities as possible, but also that the programs that are created are ones that can be replicated throughout the state, so that they're actually delivering on the value that they are intended for. And in terms of, the big picture, of course, it was no surprise that we were going to have a healthcare shortage, that we're going to have an education shortage. And what that tells me is that the folks have not been convened to think strategically about the future of workforce in our state. And I think BOLI has a role in doing that.
Thank you. And so we're going to have our next question first go to Ms. Stevenson again. Do you believe there are any possible categories of discrimination not presently included in Oregon statutes that should be included? And if so, why should they be included?
In Oregon, we have anti-discrimination statutes that protect people based on their race, their gender identity, sexual orientation, national origin. That we have a number of statutes that protect their leave for things from, bone marrow donations to volunteer firefighting to pay, family medical leave. So, we have quite a lot of protections in Oregon. I think that it is the role of BOLI to enforce the existing laws. And that's what I would do to make sure that folks truly experience what we all want in Oregon. These laws are a reflection of the values of what we do want. We do want people to have discrimination-free workplaces. We want them to be able to have time to care for their families when they're sick. So the job at BOLI is just simply to enforce the existing laws.
Thank you. Ms. Held.
Thank you, Robin. I think where discrimination is happening is that our agencies are not doing their job. And BOLI is not upholding its job. The discrimination that needs to be addressed in Oregon is the failing agencies. We have agencies failing in all sectors of our government, and BOLI is no exception. We are not creating the opportunities that we need for our students through the apprenticeship department. We are not upholding the civil rights cases in a timely manner, and that is unacceptable. And to not uphold these discrimination cases is the most important thing that we can address. I am proud to be endorsed by Senator Betsy Johnson and Christine Drazan because they represent change. They represent the change that our state needs. And that is why I am running. I am running to change the agency and make it uphold its end of the deal. It's funded by the taxpayers, and the taxpayers that bring forward claims need to have those claims be addressed in a timely manner. And we also need a workforce that is trained for high wage paying jobs. And that's what I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stevenson. I'm sorry. It's my fault. This one goes again to Ms. Held for first response. How will you seek to improve the proportion of women enrolled in the 146 apprenticeship programs overseen by BOLI?
Oh, so this is such a great question. I think it's so important. I would note that Oregon's motto is she flies with her own wings, right? And you have 2 women competing for this position, and you have 3 women governor candidates. So everyone that's running on a statewide election this year is a woman. So I think that's pretty awesome, and I'm really excited about that. I went out to the Baker Institute, and they have a program that does just this. They take, they have simulators that are in trailers, and they drive the trailers around for getting your CDL license and your CAT heavy equipment license, and they drive them around and they go to different areas. And one of the things that they do is they go to areas where women want to get those, and they drive them over. They were in Redmond during the primary, and 12 women were able to get their certifications. I think it's really important that we focus on making sure that women have access to the training that they want and need to get the highest wage jobs that they can. And I think that that is something that I will replicate as the BOLI commissioner, is make sure that these expensive equipment programs are able to transport across our state, so we have more access for everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Stevenson.
Ensuring that there's equity and access for women and people of color in our apprenticeship programs is exactly why I went to Washington, D.C. to participate in a convening held by the U.S. Department of Labor to answer this very question. And among the things that we learned is that pre-apprenticeship programs are more highly utilized by women. And so that tells us that that is a pathway that we need to make sure is given the support that it needs. So working with Oregon Tradeswomen, the organization Oregon Tradeswomen, Constructing Hope, pre-apprenticeship programs that help women get into the trades, and then making sure that once they're in apprenticeship programs, that we have the programs that are needed to keep them in those apprenticeship programs. So making sure that they have the support to get the tools they need, transportation, childcare, learning from the barriers that prevent folks from keeping through the apprenticeship programs, and utilizing the Future Ready Oregon dollars to help bridge those gaps and keep them in the apprenticeship programs.
Thank you. You are listening to the League of Women Voters of Portland's Voter Forum for the candidates for Commissioner of the Bureau of Labor and Industries. We have a few more questions. This one goes to Ms. Stevenson first. Are you satisfied with Oregon's prevailing wage requirements? Why or why not? If not, how would you seek to change them?
Again, the prevailing wage requirements are set by the legislature, and the legislature has recently decided to change the prevailing wage survey so that it aligns with collective bargaining agreements to make it more simplified. I will be interested to hear how that's going for folks. The commissioner has a prevailing wage advisory committee that it represents business and labor interests to help make sure that we're communicating with both business and labor about any struggles they're having in how the enforcement of those prevailing wage jobs are being approached by BOLI. So I think we will just continue to make sure that everybody's at the table and that the regulations are clear and accessible and understandable, that everyone gets the training that they need to comply with those rules, and that's the role of BOLI.
Thank you. Ms. Held.
Thank you so much for that question, Robin. So I have experience as the school board chair overseeing the bonds that were passed and implementing prevailing wage firsthand. And, one of the bonds that we passed was $250 million, and overseeing that bond, as well as the other bonds that we passed that were slightly less, and building 4 schools, 2 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school. That experience is very, very valuable in this position. One, not only because of overseeing millions of dollars of budget in hard construction, but also making sure that we were allocating the contracts to people who are paying prevailing wage and doing a good job, and making sure that those were all paid on time. And so I have a history of doing just this. And I would ask people to look at that history and see how fair and balanced that I am in my approach, and how it's important to oversee budgets. I have the experience of overseeing billions of dollars of budgets. And my opponent has never overseen state budgets, where I have done that for many, many years in different capacities on my school board experience and in my legislative experience. I think it's very important to have someone who's been in an elected office before.
Thank you. This next question goes to you, Ms. Helt. Are you satisfied with the BOLI's current organizational structure? Why or why not? And if not, how would you change it?
This agency is not upholding the tasks it is asked by the taxpayers. I would immediately on day one do an internal audit and ask the Secretary of State to do an external audit. I would meet with every single staff member and work alongside of them while we get this agency running where they want it to. Everybody wants to be successful in their jobs, and we have not provided an environment for success in BOLI. We have far too long not questioned the status quo and accepted that people who are being discriminated against are waiting to even have an assignment for their cases. We cannot accept that. I do not accept that. I do not accept that to the point where I am running for this office and dedicating my time to turn this agency around. It is incredibly important that we do not accept this. I am not endorsed by anyone who has ever run BOLI. That's because I don't like the way that it's run. I want to make sure we change this to be an agency that functions for all Oregonians. This is a nonpartisan position, and it is so important that this agency upholds civil rights, and it is not doing that now. Thank you.
Ms. Stevenson.
So BOLI's core functions are to enforce the civil rights of Oregonians in the workplace, housing, public spaces, to ensure that our wage and hour laws are enforced. It's your meal break, rest time, overtime, prevailing wage, and make sure that employers have the tools to comply with those laws, and then to make sure that we have a highly skilled workforce through the apprenticeship program. And the pieces of the organization, they generally fall within those divisions. There's also the administrative prosecution unit, the commissioner's office, and some other administrative units. What I can say is that, BOLI has been underfunded. There is less than half the folks doing this work than there was in the 90s. And Oregon's, of course, only gotten bigger. So in order to meet the needs for our businesses, for the technical assistance they need, and to make sure that our complaints are investigated in a timely fashion, I think that BOLI, I think all options should be on the table, including increasing BOLI's budget. I would love to see more investment in the agency. If the legislature believes that we should get through these cases faster, which I think we should, I would love to see more investment. And also just I know that's my time.
Thank you. This is our last question, and we'll go first to Ms. Stevenson. Are you satisfied with BOLI's apprenticeship programs? Why or why not? And if not, how would you seek to improve them?
Well, I think what we all want is more accessible apprenticeships. We want more apprenticeship opportunities. So again, connecting early on. I know, in my community, it would have been life-changing if we could have even heard about this option to be making six figures. You earn while you learn, you don't come out with a ton of debt, and then you have a highly skilled occupation. So making that connection early, and then also letting people know that this is an option, in your building trades, your electricians, construction workers, carpenters, but also starting to expand to things like behavioral health, firefighting, other healthcare professions. So it is a really useful tool for us, and we need to be making sure that it is accessible. Some of the new projects that are coming out are connecting with Coffee Creek, our iron workers are starting a pre-apprenticeship program with the Women's Correctional Facility there to make sure that once those folks get out of incarceration, they have a pathway into good jobs. So making sure wherever we are, that we are telling folks about this opportunity and increasing the flexibility of the administrative rules to make those opportunities as accessible as possible.
Ms. Helt.
Thank you. Can you repeat the question real quick, Robin? Sorry.
How are you satisfied with Boley's apprenticeship programs? Why or why not? And if not, how would you seek to improve them?
No, I'm not satisfied with them at all. I think that we can't make excuses that our budgets are too small. We can't make excuses that, we should have done this years ago. We have to fix this. And that's why I'm running. I'm running to build a bridge from our K-12 career and technical education programs and expand out our youth apprenticeship programs. Right now, I believe we have 2 youth apprenticeships programs that are very small in number, like 10 to 12 in our entire state. I would look towards Wisconsin and I would look towards North Carolina, who have 20,000 youth apprenticeship programs to change what we're doing and really give the kids that are not bound for college a really big lift up into their career. I think it's very important. I also think it's important that we challenge the status quo. I was a sponsor on the Paid Family Leave Act, and when that was delayed, I brought forward a bill to change the delay. And leadership, the speaker, she did not bring forward that bill. Tina Kotek did not look at that bill or even entertain that idea. But what I bring to this table is when things are wrong, I'm going to challenge them. That's my record. I challenged the delay for 2 years of the Paid Family Leave Act. I worked hard to get that implemented. And I believe that we need to have people in office that are going to challenge what's wrong. And I don't want what we're doing in the apprenticeship program, and I'm going to challenge it.
Thank you both for your thoughtful answers to our questions. The candidates may now provide closing statements, with Ms. Stevenson going first. Ms. Stevenson.
Thank you again for having me. So at its core, the Labor Commissioner's job is just to make sure that all the workers, employers, side hustlers, dreamers, like everybody who makes our economy run, they know they have someone in their corner, someone who's looking out for them, who wants them to succeed. I've spent tens of thousands of hours with the laws enforced by this agency with one goal: to make the state better, to help us realize the Oregon we all want. Oregon where fairness is paramount, in Oregon where we recognize our laws are a statement of our values: fair pay, safe workplaces, time to care for our families. I'm endorsed by every living labor commissioner, Democrat and Republican. I have over 125 endorsements from organizations, elected officials across the political spectrum, representing business, labor, and more. There is no one who is going to be better equipped to do what needs to be done in this office: to enforce the civil rights of Oregonians in the workplace, housing, and public spaces, to empower our businesses to do the right thing, give them the tools they need to get ahead, to invest in apprenticeship programs so we can have more sustainable pathways to family wage jobs, staff our schools, construction sites, and hospitals. Oregon workers are at their best when they have the skills they need to earn a good wage, when they're treated with dignity, they can see a future for themselves. Oregon's homegrown businesses are at their best when the good jobs they support move us all forward. The Labor Commissioner can support all of that, and that is what I intend to do. Thank you.
Ms. Helt, you may close now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all this time and your thoughtful questions, Robin, and the League of Women Voters. It is so important that we have people that are willing to challenge the status quo in our agencies. And when we see failed agency heads endorse candidates, that should be concern. because our agency is failing. Our civil rights complaints are not being upheld. Our apprenticeships have not been upheld. We are not giving the right apprenticeships. We are seeing jobs move to other states. The time is now for change, and I represent that change. I want to bring forward very thoughtful, fair, and balanced approach and make sure that we are using taxpayer dollars to what they are intended for and having an agency that's successful. I have a track record of being elected many times in a nonpartisan position. Every single bill I've ever passed in the legislature was bipartisan. Every vote that I've ever passed in my school board experience was bipartisan. I have 12 years of experience. Why I want to do this work is I want to lead. I want to lead to make sure that we are creating the apprenticeships and connecting our youth with those apprenticeships for the next 50 years. We need to start building for Oregon's future, not our past, and we need to make change. My opponent talks a lot about working with both sides, but this week she canceled 2 debates with small businesses. Small businesses have been crushed through the pandemic. It is so important that we hear their voices. And I'm traveling around the state to listen to workers and small businesses and make sure we create opportunities in the state. And together with your vote, I will make sure we create the opportunities in the workforce that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hell and Ms. Stevenson, both for participating in our forum and for running for office. We do appreciate your time commitment. Now I will return the microphone to Debbie Kay to close our forum.
Thank you, Robin. This concludes today's voter forum among the candidates for Commissioner of the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industries. We thank each of the candidates for their participation. Audience members, please share this forum recording and podcast with your family, friends, and colleagues. We all need to be informed voters. If you are registered to vote by October 18th, you should receive your ballot by October 27th. As with all Oregon elections, it is mail-in only. Go Oregon. To be counted, ballots must be postmarked by Tuesday, November 8th at 8 p.m. You can also find an official Dropbox location near you by checking www.vote411.org. This is the National League of Women Voters election resource that is filled locally with all the information you need about the election. The League of Women Voters is a nonprofit membership organization. We hope this forum was meaningful to you, and we welcome you to join or contribute at lwvpdx.org. This is Debbie Kay for the League of Women Voters of Portland. Thank you for watching and listening and for being an informed voter. And remember, your vote counts.